This is Politics West. It's a joy to have you with us live on a Sunday morning. My guests this week are Siobhan Bailey, the Conservative candidate for Stroud, Damien Egan, who's standing for Labour in the new seat of Bristol North East, Tessa Munt, the Lib Dems candidate for the new Wells and Mendip Hills constituency, and Chloe Turner, who's aiming for the new North Cotswolds seat for the Green Party. Big welcome to all of you. Nice to see you today. So, with just a few days left to go, let's take a look at how the past week of the campaign has panned out here in the West. From unexpected target seats to talk of Putin and power stations, here's Dan O'Brien.
This is a week where we have seen Labour and the Lib Dems openly expand their ambitions in the West. This is as the Conservatives try to move on from the allegations about some in their party using insider knowledge to place bets on the date of the general election. This week, withdrawing support from their candidate Laura Saunders in Bristol North West. She says she's cooperating with an investigation. She'll still be on the ballot paper, though, as the deadline to change that has passed. As for the Greens, they used their leader interviews this week to focus on their net zero plans, including ending nuclear power stations. Given there's an enormous brand new one under construction at Hinkley Point, it has raised questions about whether they'd switch it off early.
I think it's debatable. It's obviously partway through being
You might switch it off when it's only partway through its life?
We don't have specific Green Party policy on that, and I don't have access to the latest information of exactly how far we are through the build and what the sensible decision is.
Yep, it's been a busy week here in the West, a busy day too for the editorials in the Sunday papers. The Sunday Times coming out today in favour, in support of the Labour Party, something they haven't done since 2001, I think. Time for a radical reset, they say. Is that a bit of a blow, Siobhan?
Well, listen, we are fighting for every vote. We're not taking anything for granted and making sure we're making the case. I mean, we're incredibly worried about the chance of a super socialist majority in Parliament. For everything that we know, the Labour Party's instincts are, even though many people will tell me they're trying to pretend they're centrist Tories to win over the country, we know that on tax, on defence, on immigration, and on a range of other things like building over our countryside, that people are concerned. So it's for us to make the case. And as the Security Minister says there are still many, many people that are undecided. So it's not that Labour have necessarily won everybody over.
OK, Damien will want to come back on that. The paper's saying Keir Starmer has earned his chance. Change is the only option, but the scale of the challenge is immense. It's support, but it's not a ringing endorsement, is it?
Well, Keir Starmer has changed the Labour Party and got us to a position where we are ready for government. We set out a manifesto, which is a practical way to change our country and get it back on course. And people are fed up after 14 years of paying more in tax. The tax burden's the highest it's been in 70 years, and yet we're seeing public services crumbling. I understand the Conservatives have to make this election about anything but their record, but the reality is people are seeing it. And if you've got things like the papers like the Sunday Times, that echoes the conversations that I'm having.
Siobhan, as Dan was saying in his summary, the parties are certainly circling, looking to claim Conservative seats they never thought might be possible. Do you think the writing is on the wall?
I mean, mine's always been a marginal seat, so I've always been having a nice-natured scrap over in Stroud. But it's certainly not one. I mean, as we've seen in the American elections only this week, a debate has certainly changed the conversation for President Biden over there with the Democrats. So there's a few more days to go. But I think, whereas Damien will say, and we get on well personally, that the Labour Party has changed, that's not what I see behind the scenes in Parliament. It's not what the Labour Party is setting out. They're actually not telling us what they will do, and that is creating a nervousness which is leading to this indecision. So I will continue to make the case for the Conservative values and the approach to this country.
let's talk to Damien and Tessa together, because I think it's really interesting when you look at where campaigners are spending these final days. And there were reports that Labour campaigners were being diverted away from Lib Dem target seats in Somerset, sending them off to Plymouth to do some good down there. Is there an understanding between Labour and the Liberal Democrats? Are we down to that kind of granular tactics?
It's everybody knows that in vast swathes of the West Country, it's the Lib Dems who challenge the Conservatives. The other thing that everybody knows is the Conservatives have had their time. They've run out of ideas, they've run out of steam, actually hit the wall, and the time has come really to have a change. And in some places that change, in quite a lot of places in the West Country, that change will look like Liberal Democrats. And we are the people who can challenge the Conservatives and change things.
Ed Davey said this weekend he's quietly excited about the possible number of gains that might be coming the Lib Dems' way. So is this turnaround time after 2015 and the wipeout?
I think it's very different from 2015, it's different from 2017, it's different from 2019. There's no question about that. I think, my colleague who said something about having swathes volunteers, our office is so busy. We have so many people who are coming forward because they are fed to the back teeth with what they've had for certainly the last 5 years has brought everything into really sharp focus. Time for change has come, and we are the change.
Chloe Turner, let's turn to you. I filmed this week with some people who were so passionate about putting the climate crisis right at the centre of the political story. Do you think the Greens have done enough to put a number of people in positions where they can go on and make that happen?
I think absolutely. I mean, you'll know that we have 4 target constituencies across the UK where we have contenders who are, on the cusp of taking those seats and being able to lead those conversations at Westminster. I think we probably all accept that we're looking at a likely Labour landslide, but we need Labour to do much better on climate, on nature, on foreign policy, and really to, not play it safe, not just inherit what the Conservatives have left us, but push further and faster, and particularly on climate, as you say.
I mean, the Greens, they promise big things, don't they, in this manifesto of yours? Better funded public services, bigger role for the state, swift transition to net zero, as you say. You've laid out the specific tax-raising measures you would need to bring that all about, but the IFS reckons they won't raise the kind of sums you need, and they'll be deeply unpopular.
Well, yes, that interview from the chap from the IFS, I mean, he had choice words for every party's manifesto. It wasn't just the Greens. And he also had some very positive things to say about what we've set out. And we've had, support from other places, from members of the Wealth Tax Commission, for example, saying that our policies are economically credible. So there's, mixed range of views amongst economists. I think what is really important is that we look at different solutions and that we look at more ambitious solutions, and we're honest about the scale of the challenge. And that is what we're saying, is that, if we're going to deliver this kind of real hope and real change to people, we've got to be more ambitious, and that's what we're looking to do.
Let's take that point to Damien. Tax has been the issue almost most talked about this week, I think. And it does look like tax rises next Parliament are inevitable. Is Labour ducking that issue?
Well, Labour have set out in the manifesto 3 areas. So there's VAT on private schools, you've got windfall taxes on the energy giants, and taxes on non-doms. So setting out where we'll increase taxes. And they're difficult decisions. It's not easy decisions to make against practical spending commitments to kickstart the economy and to get things like waiting lists down, improve our schools.
But you haven't given us a sense of what might happen to council taxes, for example.
There's still difficult decisions as we come down the line. Nothing that Labour has promised in the manifesto needs more spending and increasing in taxes.
Siobhan Bailey, the Conservatives are promising tax cuts. Labour calling that a desperate wish list. Is it realistic?
No, I mean, the tax cuts have been set out as we're going to reduce the welfare bill. So the welfare bill has doubled since the pandemic, and what we want to do is bring it back to pre-pandemic levels, which will fund the tax cuts that we've set out. But on the Labour Party, I mean, they've given a carte cast iron guarantee. They've gone as far as to say they'll give a cast iron guarantee on 3 taxes, but have not dealt with the council tax that we know the Welsh Government, Labour, are looking at, have not dealt with the triple lock plus, the protections that we're going to provide pensioners. They've not dealt with fuel duty, on alcohol duty, all those things that we've worked really hard in very, very difficult situation to bring down. And we've shown that we can cut taxes already, and the Labour Party are playing fast and loose on that. Can I just also say on to Chloe on the green policies, it's fair, you know, she's being ambitious. £80 billion of borrowing is ambitious and worrying. But on your clip about nuclear, I mean, to reach net zero and to have clean energy in nuclear at a time of global insecurity for energy security, and for a party to stand on the main stage and say that they're going to sweep away that work that has been done to have that energy security is incredibly worrying. Very worrying for Gloucestershire and South Gloucestershire as well, who are pitching for a small modular reactor.
Can you respond to that, Chloe?
Yeah, so I'm not afraid to talk about, you know, the positives of nuclear in terms of emerging technologies. My main concern with nuclear is the speed of delivery and the cost. And I think it's been amply proved that nuclear is not going to solve the problems in time. We need to put our weight behind the renewables industry, which is going to move much faster. We need to pair it with adequate storage capacity and upgrading the grid. And, you know, we are supported by many experts in feeling that that is the way to go in ensuring energy security, which I do agree with Siobhan on, is absolutely paramount.
Tessa, you're shaking your head vehemently there.
I'm not shaking my head
Chloe, but
I'm not.
Siobhan.
Yes, I recognise there are emerging technologies, but the idea that we're going to have tax cuts and that we can't do things on a day-to-day basis to make actually people's homes warmer and safer, it's for the birds that we should have tax cuts. We've been really clear about the fact that there are a number of people, be they multinationals or, you know, the billionaires and the banks. There are people that we can tax. There are organisations we can tax, and they can do good by using that tax money. We can use that tax money to get things much...
But again, the IFS not convinced that your sum's quite...
No, sure, but we've
up
invited
either.
the IFS to talk to us about that because we actually took their figures. We took their figures to create our
But these
our
are big
budgeting.
promises you're making. Sort the NHS, care for the
Yes.
elderly, cleaner waters. I mean,
We
these
need
are expensive
absolutely
things to
right.
bring
So
about.
sewage tax from the water on the water company profits. Why not use that? They won't actually. If they won't shape up to sort out their problems, then we need a tax to get that problem sorted out for everybody. Everyone hates the fact that there's actually sewage floating around on our fields, in our rivers, the streams, the sea, the coastal waters. You know, Reens, where I am. This is bonkers, and nobody likes it. You shouldn't be in a river and be afraid to fall off your boat, fall off your... You know, I saw people rowing up and down the Avon as I came in, and I was thinking, I hope they don't fall in, because you may end up ill, and that's not good enough.
I just want to turn attention, Siobhan, to those allegations of politicians betting on politics, including a West Country Conservative candidate. Catastrophic for the campaign, that was, wasn't it?
Oh, it's catastrophic for politics, actually. It's grubby, it is super serious. It's why the Prime Minister is visibly livid and angry about this. I mean, I think it's been interesting that once a Labour Party candidate was found to have bet against himself to lose, I mean, what even was going on. But listen, it's wider than that, because there has been a real issue over a range of years for many different parties. Actually, there's been lots of problems in Parliament with all different politicians, and the public want to see a restoration of trust, and they want to see that if you're going to say something, you're going to do it. And that's why we're having to point out so often what the Labour Party are saying versus what they did in Parliament, or versus what is a reality check, because I think that plays into the issues surrounding trust and priorities.
Damien, can you very quickly come back on that?
Yeah, I mean, the allegations against Conservative candidates and people around Rishi Sunak, like, this is alleged insider dealing. People had knowledge that an election was being called, and rather than get ready for an election, they went down to the bookies to put bets on. I mean, it's beyond belief in any sort of form of common sense.
We'll touch back into this issue of trust and politicians in a little while. And Siobhan, you wanted to come back.
Well,
on
I'm
one of
sure
the points
you,
that Billy's
Amanda, you'll do
making.
your BBC balance and say that Billy was wrong. I didn't start the answer to the question about the gambling thing by just talking about the Labour Party. I was totally clear about what my views are and what the Prime Minister's views are. But listen, I've got a lot of time for Billy. He says what he thinks and he stands by his principles, which we are not seeing across the board. And what I'm finding on the doorsteps as well is there are a lot of left-wing voters are boosting the Green Party at the moment. So there is a lot of confusion. There is big issues to solve, and we do need to have the answers for those, and we do need to say very, very clearly what we're going to do, and that's what we have set out. I mean, anybody only has to watch that last debate between Rishi and Keir to see how muscular and how clear the Prime Minister was about what he will do. He gave 2 points about every single issue, about how he would solve a particular problem, whereas Keir just kind of talked in a big word salad and went round in circles.
Tessa, a point.
You've had 14 years. I think people have had enough.
Well, you were with
And
us
you've
for
said-
5 of them. So.
Yes, but you were the controlling party. Remember? And when we came out of coalition, you lot stripped out every single thing we'd done, and the good things that we did, like the triple lock, which was Steve Webb, who was the MP for Thornbury and Waite at the time, and the pensions minister. That, you go, oh, that's ours, because it was good. Putting the tax threshold up, so we took those who were earning the least money, that seems to have become one of your things as well. Believe me, we did some fantastic things, particularly around energy. Ed Davey was the energy minister at that point, Secretary of State for energy. And he did some fantastic stuff. And then, forgive me, it's Sunday morning, but I seem to remember David Cameron saying he was going to strip out the green crap. And that's exactly what's happened. You absolutely need to recognise that people have had enough and there need to be a change. And we are certainly going to end up, I'm sure, with a Labour government. My job, perhaps, is, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, is to hold your lot to account.
Let's talk about leadership. How do you think Keir Starmer has been coming across? We saw him head-to-head with Rishi Sunak earlier this week. How do you think his performance went?
For me, it's a practical plan about how we improve the country. Like when I'm talking to people on the doors...
But about him as a personality.
About him as a
leader.
personality. Well, I was an MP for 3 months, so I kind of like, you're getting a sense of things, just finding your bearings. I think we've got someone there who'll get the job done. I think he's serious about getting on with things and he's setting out. That's why I liked when I read through, obviously as a candidate, you have to read through all the manifesto, and I thought, actually, we can work with this, we can change the country. We need, the things people talk about are getting the waiting list down. People want the assurance if you phone for an ambulance, it is going to turn up, that you will see police on the streets. And the country is in decline. And, you know, people, all this talk of a big Labour supermajority, if people want a change, don't think that we'll just get it. You have to go and vote
How
for
do
it.
you answer the fact then that the evidence of how Labour runs Wales and the NHS there, worse waiting lists, a nightmare situation, that's the evidence to the country. It's all very well having a sort of a loosey-goosey manifesto and lots of nice things to say, but actually the evidence is in front of us about what will happen to the NHS under a Labour. And that's what I think is unforgivable, is face up to the reality of the situation and be honest with the public about what we will do.
It's not a fair reflection of the state of the NHS in Wales. And let's think, the government for the United Kingdom, the people funding our councils, this is all coming from the government. There's so much instability from this Conservative government and the low economy that affects every single part of our nation, this low growth economy, is the Conservative legacy.
Chloe, let's talk about leadership of the Greens. It's quite handy, isn't it, to have two people able to be in two different places at the same time campaigning. Do people like that double-headed approach?
Yeah, I think it provides a really nice balance. I like the fact we have both a male and a female lead. I mean, that's not necessarily deliberate, but the way it's panned out. I think both of our leaders are, you know, very measured, highly intelligent people, and people really respond well to the fact that they are pragmatic, but they're ambitious. And we've seen in the various debates over the past few weeks that, you know, people are responding to that. And it's been really exciting, you know, standing in every seat for the first time, we are getting the kind of representation we've wanted for a long time. And it's great to, you know, see people responding to that.
Siobhan Bailey, if it were not to go your way this week, how much next steps planning is going on within the Conservative Party? How much jostling for support, any kind of leadership change afoot?
Nobody, I mean, I'm just getting on with my job, so I'm out every day on doorsteps and talking to people, and we've done lots of hustings this week, so there's no jostling as far as I can see. And
a lot of the high-profile people in Cabinet have been pretty absent, haven't they?
Well, the Prime Minister came to see me, the Mark Harper, the Transport Secretary, and the Health Secretary as well. So, you know, they're on the news. We had the Health Secretary was on the television programme I was watching the other day. So, yeah, they're all out and about and they're busy. But, you know, they've got departments to run. You know, they're still getting on with their jobs behind the scenes as well. So,
are we all planning an all-nighter on Thursday night? What's the plan?
Sleep first.
Sleep first and then an early start.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great to chat through all those issues with you, and lovely to be live on a Sunday with you as well. And that is it. Our time has come to an end. So, as I say, huge thanks to my guests, Siobhan Bailey, Damien Egan, Tessa Munt, and Chloe Turner. Time for a second breakfast now, I think.